All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat,
I'm Eric.
And I am Stan.
and today we are going to be going through the Final Fantasy VII Remake opening cutscene. Square has officially put that on YouTube, so we can officially talk about it, and we'll go through it somewhat in detail. Probably not as in detail as we have with other trailers, because this one's 5.5 minutes long, and we spent 3 hours one time talking about the first a 60-second trailer when they and the first Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer we got in a long time. So we'll go through it a little quicker, but it shouldn't take too long. But we're gonna kind of highlight some of the big stuff that we like. And then there's also been some new information related to the gameplay with Final Fantasy VII that's come out in a PlayStation.com article, basically outlining the quest structure and some other cool things that we want to get into regarding the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then after that, we're going to get into the Dragon Quest V movie that came out on Netflix in English. It'll be a non-spoiler discussion. Me and Eric watched it. We're both familiar with Dragon Quest V. We actually did a discussion video a long time ago on Dragon Quest V, and it was my first time playing it. I really enjoyed it, so I was really excited for this movie. So we're going to give our non-spoiler thoughts, so you don't have to worry about us spoiling the movie. We'll do our very, very best not to spoil the movie or the game. And then we're going to wrap things up with a Discord question from Shatera, who says, are there any JRPG tropes or cliches that are disappearing that you actually like and wish would stay? For example, I really like when the main protagonist is characterized as an earnest, quiet, good guy, but finds out he has some demonic side that only comes out during critical moments of high emotion. Now, we were planning on doing a couple different Discord questions today, but then we started realizing, we had some quick news in there as well. And then we were going to do this entire Final Fantasy VII Remake opening, and then this other news, and we're like, okay, we're all working a lot of hours right now. We do not need a 4-hour podcast on a Monday night. So we're gonna be hitting some Discord questions up probably next week, assuming there's not anything huge to come out. That's going to take a lot of time, but let's jump right into it. Before we get started with the Final Fantasy VII Remake opening cutscene, there has been a small leak that's come up that we're not going to show. But Eric, do you want to kind of give people an idea of what this leak is, and we can kind of comment on it here real quick?
Yeah, so someone recently posted the basically released the Korean, well, not leaked or not released, leaked the Korean box art for the FF7 remake that they're printing right now and putting in the sleeves. And it actually one thing it does confirm, it is a 2-disc game. So it will likely be like Red Dead Redemption 2 if any of you have ever owned that game. And one disc is probably going to be the gameplay disc, and the second one is going to be specifically for installing data. So it will be likely that you will be spending time waiting for it to install and update the game. But it did also say that you need at least 100 gigabytes of data storage open on your PS4 for it, for everything to install.
To be clear,
so while for the first 5 hours of a Final Fantasy VII, that's a lot of data.
yeah, that is a lot of data. To be clear, guys, this is just a leak that's been circulating. It looks pretty legit, but we just want to point out that it is a leak, so it's possible there could be some movement room by the time you get the game. But 100 gigs of data, I mean, like you said, for the first 5 hours, that's just obnoxiously big.
Yeah, unless they allow you to install it ahead of time, digitally pre-order or something like that, very likely when the game comes out, you are going to be waiting probably an hour or two, depending on how big that day one patch is. Because even Red Dead Redemption 2 took a while to install. So
Yeah.
I would probably prepare that if you are planning on like taking the day off or taking the week off, you should probably anticipate probably the first 2 hours to be safe are going to be spent waiting for it to install.
Yeah. Pop it in and then go get something to eat. right?
Yeah, go take a nap or something like that. Whichever.
Dude, I just realized this past week that I pre-ordered Final Fantasy 7 Remake on Amazon like 2 years ago. And then I also, in a moment of just memory lapse, I was at GameStop buying Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and they asked me if I wanted to pre-order it, and I said, yeah, why not? So I pre-ordered the game twice.
Hmm.
But I only paid $5 at GameStop, so I kind of feel like I'm gonna like leave it there just as like a safety measure in case my Amazon game does not ship in time. Because I've had that
Oh,
happen, right? So if it's gonna be late, then I don't know. I'll figure out what I'm gonna do. But I think I got it in both spots. Worst comes to worst, I'll lose $5. So
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up during lunch at work, and I'm just going to put it in my PS4, let it install, go back to work, come home, and hopefully there won't be too much left to update.
oh, nice. Yeah, that'll
yeah,
work.
yeah. Well, hopefully, I don't know how it's gonna be pretty popular. So hopefully, when you go on lunch, they still got copies, but I guess it's not unreasonable. I mean, GameStop opens at what, like 10:30, something like that. So yeah, should be fine. But yeah, let's move on to our first topic here. So, Square just released the opening to the game, Final Fantasy VII. It's actually somewhat faithful, and then it's actually taken some different turns as well. They've actually changed a lot of things. So we're interested in getting into it here. Let me get this up on the screen. Sorry, guys. All right. So I have it up on the screen. I'm going to put this at, I don't know, 0.25. If that's too slow, then we'll adjust where as necessary. Give me 1 second. Let me get my guide up here so I can follow along. All right, so we're good. All right, so let's start this bad boy off. Okay, so I've hit play here. We're going really slow here. Basically, guys, you just got to stop me if there's something you want to say, but we're starting off here with the first 30 seconds or so with, it looks like a bird is flying outside of Midgar. So let me
Out in
speed
the
this
desert.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, out in the desert. I actually think this is kind of cool because this kind of reminds me of the secret ending that Final Fantasy VII has. It's not really a spoiler, I don't think, but Red 13 or someone who looks like Red 13, right, runs up and like on this area, and it's all like it's not a desert anymore. It's all grassy and everything, and it's kind of like a stark contrast to that. So I think that's
Yeah,
cool.
the opening shot kind of like really shows like this cliff, like kind of a cliffside, like in the first, I don't know, 15 seconds or so. And so I've seen people speculate like, oh, maybe that's the cliff where, like you said, the secret ending, like Red 13 kind of comes up to the top, and then you get like the view of the city.
Yeah,
I guess maybe they wanted to go full circle by the end of the story.
Yeah,
yeah, that
they could show this exact same shot, but everything is green or something.
yeah. I think it's a good way to start off the game. Initially, when I saw they were changing a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, I had the like knee jerk reaction of thinking this isn't necessary. but once I realized what they were doing, I kind of liked it. I also really like that they're showing off like the outside of Midgar because if I remember correctly, just because Midgar has been sucking up so much energy from the planet, I believe that's kind of contributed to just how desolate things are. That's why in that secret ending with Red 13, you actually see a lot of grass and everything in this area because, it's like the planet has healed, right? Well, in the
Mhm.
original game, I mean, yeah, it's kind of implied this is deserty, but, in the overworld, you run across it in like 4 seconds. Like this
Yeah,
really kind of gives the magnitude of the toll this is taking on this part of the planet. So,
yeah. There's like a gray like light kind of surrounding Midgar, right
yeah,
on the overworld.
I kind of think this is pollution, but what do you all think?
It's likely just pollution. Like it's showing like the upper part of Midgar, which
Okay.
we've never really seen.
You want me to skip? What time code are you at?
Oh, well, I'm saying in general, it's like you don't need a close up of Midgar. I'm still on the desert part.
Okay, cool.
Like we haven't really seen like Midgar in the daytime, so I guess it's easier to show off the pollution. That's what I think it is. I just think it's pollution.
Yeah, because if we keep going further, like past the 30-second mark, the bird starts flying into the city, and it gets super super thick, right? And it's like you start seeing like smoke billowing out of all these chimney stacks and everything, and you almost can't even see, right? All you could just see a faint black outline of a bird. It's just like, Jesus, dude, this is just bad. You
It
know?
just seems to be the industrial area though, because if you go a little further, the bird eventually goes to the clear part of Midgar.
Yeah. You still see a little bit, but it's definitely not as bad as when you first entered. But I mean, if you stop at like 52, 53, something, yeah, especially at like 53, you'll see these two like stacks just billowing out smoke like it's cool. I mean, that's an insane amount to just be right there by the road. Yeah, I mean, again, in 56, you're seeing more just crap going in the air. So I know that was a kind of a big issue in the original was the impact it's having on the environment. So yeah, looks like pollution's going to be greater emphasized here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, like when you get to like the city part, it's not like perfect by any means, but
Yeah,
like you never really got a clear idea of what the upper sector really looked like.
yeah,
And this is like it's kind of nice to see because it's kind of what I was expecting, but it's still nice to see regardless. The most, I think, like 95% of the time, we've mostly seen just the lower plates
yeah.
where it's always dark underneath and stuff like that, and above it just looks like kind of a normal city.
Yeah, I this was kind of one of the things I took note of too was that being able to see the upper plate like this and seeing what life is like up here. Clearly, it's still kind of dirty, but it's also things are taken care of. Like you can see all these different areas where, like at 108, you see guys working on stuff. I mean, later, and I think a few seconds later, you see
Little
workers.
children riding bikes in the street.
Yeah, but you see like workers repairing like lines and stuff like at 114 you see construction workers they're repairing stuff. I mean, clearly like money's going here to take care of the upper plate, like
Mm-hmm.
they're actually for better or worse this part of the city's actually being maintained.
Something I'm going to compliment also is that it gives a good idea of how well Shinra actually takes care of the people, or how it looks like
Mhm.
they take good care of the people because everyone looks pretty normal going about every day. Doesn't seem like there's much oppression going on in the upper plate. It's probably not perfect, but they very likely highly depend on Shinra Electric Company, like we depend on these type of things, and they don't really perceive them as evil. They don't even think about
Mm-hmm.
like if taking Mako energy is a good or bad thing. Like these are things that are people from the lower plate are expressing more than people on top. People are just living their lives, just you know, nothing out of the ordinary, no tyrannical thing happening. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you see all sorts of little shops and just we see a restaurant, a coffee shop. I mean, this seems like a downtown area of a big city. I can imagine around the corner there's a whole strip of bars. I mean, where clean bars where you go there and have a good night out on a Saturday. I mean, this is definitely capturing that vibe for me. So, really really cool that they're adding this in here. Um,
Yeah. Also, like the music that they play for this
mm,
intro
yeah.
sequence is like in contrast with kind of what you see visually, right? Because, like you said, it's mostly people just going about their business, right? Or the kids like having a good time riding around. but
Yeah.
then there's like this ominous tone with these like one winged angel chord, like repeating in
Yeah.
the background. And so it's kind of like telling you two things at once. Like there's also like around 111,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a shot of like a stray dog like trying to eat out of a trash can, right?
Yeah. I
But
thought.
like meanwhile the kids just kind of like ride by in the background, no one cares. And then there's a very deliberate shot of like a fading flower, and the grass around it is all
Mm-hmm.
brown. The flower is dead, and a car just goes by, like traffic is just going by as usual. So it's like really trying to hammer home the point that like people are not
Paying
concerned
attention.
with the environment or the pollution, right? But at the same time, they're very happy how they are. They've like completely lost sight of that as an issue, because they live in this city surrounded, like you said, by pollution and smokestacks
Yeah.
and
I mean,
macro reactors.
even at that point with the dog eating out of the trash can around 111, 112, you see like all these like recycle cans, and I'm assuming recycle cans are green, but you see dumpsters and everything, and like there's all these trash bags and all this trash just like sitting around the dumpster. So it is maintained in that like it's not just laying around in the street somewhere, but like it's like clearly like they're just like whatever, like it's not an issue, you know.
I mean, it's exactly like how people are in real life. Like we don't really take concern of where it comes from, the energy we get, or the internet connection we necessarily
Hmm.
get. Like we don't really take into account where this stuff comes from, like oil and everything like that. And because we do have like activists in real life who are like, we got to use less of it. We're destroying the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I mean. Even the original FF7 was trying to portray that like you have to take care of the planet or you're gonna
The
suck all the life
planet's
out of it.
Yeah, the planet's special. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like blissfully ignorant, or they know or just don't care.
Yeah, I think this also makes sense in context of the original, in that when Avalanche, does what they do and they destroy the Mako reactors, the plan by Shinra is just to, or sorry, the Sector 7 plate, right? The plan by Shinra is just to blame Avalanche, right? To pin it on them, even though it was Shinra who destroyed the plate. And this kind of gives you the context to like that people would easily believe it, right? Because look at all the stuff that Shinra provides for them. You know, like people are going to be more likely to side with the company that is providing them all these benefits, right? Or it's like it's their way of life that they've come to know, essentially. Mako reactors and how the city runs and everything.
Right.
So
It'll
makes sense.
better.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's better displaying the gray area that or Avalanche comes in, because they don't really explore that too much till near the end of the game, where Kate Sith kind of calls Barrett out on it,
Mm-hmm.
on destroying all the reactors and doing like more showing how life is for everyone with these Mako reactors and what happens when they do blow up and who they affect. Like that does help send a stronger message of like the gray area that is like, sure, you're saving the planet destroying these Mako reactors, but you're also taking away the livelihood of innocent people, and you're going to put them either in poverty or put them in a dangerous state, and you're killing people not just from the explosion, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like you take away electricity and internet from us. It's like these are things that we depend on now
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
people, and we don't, like, who knows what we would do if we had like all this stuff taken away from us.
I mean, it is true if you think about it. I mean, in the world of Final Fantasy VII, if they stopped pulling Mako out of the planet, because that's what powers everything, right? That's what fuels everything. That's what they use for material, also. So, um, if they stopped doing that, like, would they go back to being like a medieval society? You know, that's I don't know how. I don't know. I mean, I certainly they've researched, I imagine, other forms of power and everything, but I mean that is a lot to ask of people to give up on stuff. I mean, if people told me that using the internet was like harmful to the environment, I don't think I could be convinced to stop, to be honest. Like
Yeah,
it's
no,
it, yeah, I would be like, can't I just like recycle a plate or something? Like,
yeah,
you know?
we're too
Yeah.
accustomed to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't children try to address that in any way? Because I don't even remember. I don't remember them ever addressing that.
I mean, they kind of the whole concept of like the geostigma, right, where they were sick. I mean, I think it was kind of it wasn't in relation to the environment. It was in relation to uh Sephiroth, right, which was kind of
Yeah.
cheesy. But I mean,
Yeah,
the idea people were sick, like the water wasn't clean. I think I don't know.
it was like Sephiroth's last middle finger before he went away. Him and Genova.
Yeah, and it successfully ended any future adaptation.
Mhm.
But anyways, okay, if we keep going on here though, I thought it was kind of interesting at 120. I know Stan has a point also about this, but at 120 you see this playground and it looks oddly similar to the one we saw in the original. So at first, like when I saw this, I thought, okay, I know they remade and redesigned areas. Like we've seen the reactor area remade. It looks way different. So is this the same playground? Because they've already kind of implied, they've already kind of shown that in earlier trailers. You see this big cat thing, which is in the original. But Stan, you brought up, well, I don't want to speak for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first, I guess it's possible that there are multiple, right, playgrounds that look the same.
Because this is on the top layer, right?
Yeah,
So
this is on the top plate, and the original is on the slums. But based on the reactor that she looks at, we know that this is Sector 5. You can kind of see like the outline of the 5 on the reactor. So it's possible that they've just moved it like to the top plate, you know.
so
Like they're gonna have the same scenes like where that playground happens to be, but you'll just be on the top. Um or like I said before, like maybe there's multiple and like Shinra mass produces like the same playground,
with the cat creature.
yeah, and then like sticks the same things like maybe every sector is like structured the same more or less,
That's
right? Like neighborhoods.
that's
And so you
probably
have a playground in the same place no matter what sector you go to.
yeah. That's
Or it might just be for just like a little Easter egg, like, hey, FF7 fans, remembered this?
Yeah, that could be also.
yeah. Well, I think like if they had to give a lore reason, it's probably. I mean, it could be an Easter egg thing, like Eric said, or like Stan mentioned, just Shenra just mass produces these things. I mean, it's probably a popular character. It's a kid's, playground. It's probably just something that's like a cartoon show or something, or maybe some government ran Shinra ran television show. But
That tells you how knee deep we are into these trailers that we talk about the lore of the cat slide.
Yes.
yeah, but it also makes me wonder though. uh, I'll go a little deeper with it. In a like last year and a half ago, we talked about Nomura, who said at this closed off meeting where at this art show for the Final Fantasy series, he came out and talked about the 7 remake and showed off some stuff. And they did some interviews there, and he said that the original, a lot of things worked that wouldn't really make sense in a high detailed remake like this. And he specifically brought up Aerith's house and that there's all these plants growing around and there's a river that's in the background around her house, but it like doesn't make any sense for there to be a river because where it is in the slums. So they kind of had to redesign some things. So if
Right.
this is the same playground, I wonder if they're also going to put the church on the top plate because sunlight's coming in. I mean, I guess he still has to fall, so maybe. But I just wonder if they're going to rearrange like where she lives, but then she goes down to the slums to sell flowers or something. I don't know.
The whole point of the church was that sunlight comes to it despite it being on the lower plate.
But I think that would be one of the things he's talking about that you can get away with in the lower detailed PS1 version, but with a more detailed version, he's like, hey, I have to think about, why is there a river in the slums? You know,
Hmm.
Like, uh,
Um,
but at the same time, I feel like you could make it work easily. There could just be, holes in the plate or something like that. But I don't
yeah,
know.
because that's the whole thing of the church is even Cloud points out, he's like, "Hey, how are flowers growing down here?" And then she's like, "This is where like one bit of sunlight comes out
Yeah.
and grows these flowers."
Well, I mean, in that trailer, we do see in the next few scenes, like they walk outside the church and there's plants all growing outside the church. Like, you can see the sky in the distance. So, I mean, they've clearly made some alterations, but it's probably just a secondary playground that looks the same. They
That's
probably,
true. Like the church, I don't know like how the actual structure of in this game will be, but like the church is actually right next to the Sector 5 gate where you get out where you exit Midgar or
Mhm.
enter and exit Midgar in the original game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So I'm not surprised if the church is more in the outskirts of Midgar.
yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll have to see. But, you know, it looks like the kids are playing here. They slide down the slide. And then the girl looks up at the reactor, it's shooting up some Mako remnants.
Yeah. Did you notice that as they're playing, like right at 1:31 or so, she comes down and then the lights like all flicker on. Like it's turning from evening to night, so like the lights are all timed, like to
Oh
just
yeah.
come on. And then
So like when it turns nighttime, the pollution's coming out of the reactors to
yeah,
generate more electricity.
so it's the lights coming on that makes the kids like all like, oh, and then they look up at the reactor. So it's like, oh, it's time, like it's gonna do its thing.
Eric, I
They're like,
don't
well, time to go home.
Eric, I don't
Yeah.
know if this is yeah, I don't know if this is what you meant, but it just occurred to me like it's still clearly daylight out. I mean, of course it could be, like 6 p.m. about to be dark in the next half hour, but the fact that it corresponds with like the reactor shooting a bunch of crap out, maybe like certain times of the day the pollution gets so thick that it literally blacks out the sky and they have to turn these lights on for kids to see. I don't know. I'm trying, maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much into it, but like
That would
it's,
be really dark.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd go that dark, but
I mean, why is it turning on at the same time the reactor's going though?
I
well,
think
you
it's
can
because
kind of tell the sun's starting to go down.
That's true
yeah, it's
too.
like a little bit darker. Yeah.
Like you could tell, like if you pan to any scenes from like 136, you'll see the sun is coming from the left side, and it's just like so. It looks like it's starting to come down. Like even the sky looks like it is.
Could be because of all the pollution though.
But I think that's intentional because the next part of the trailer jumps to nighttime, and where the trailer like actually lines up with the original trailer.
Yeah. So the reactor shoots a bunch of specks and whatever you want to remnants of Mako up in the air. I always thought that the original started off just looking at the stars. Did they reimagine this to make it
It did.
Mako, or was it always that way?
No, it was the stars in the original.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and then it kind of it faded into the Mako leak or whatever it was that Aerith is looking at in the alleyway.
okay.
So
So
they've kind of done away with that um, theme, I guess, of like showing the stars.
I think
Either that or
Fridays
they've
FF7.
transitioned like really quickly.
okay, so it's kind of panning in on Aerith. If you've ever played FF7 Remake, I got it on like 0.25 here, so it's going slow. But this is coming up on Aerith. This is pretty much, as we said, faithful with the original. She's down there praying in front of a leaking pipe that has Mako coming out of it. It's kind of weird, but it's pretty faithful. And
What does change though, going a little further in, she doesn't just stand up and walk
yeah,
away normally like she does in the original game.
Mm-hmm.
She sees something that frightens her and she starts walking away from it.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a little different.
Cue in the spooky ghost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of implied that it's dark out. It gets a little dangerous in the back alleys. It's kind of emphasizing that. She's been on the run, I guess, somewhat with the Turks kind of looking for her and stuff. So, or at least keeping an eye on her. So, makes sense she's a little sketchy. But let's keep going here. Okay, so right, this is basically the same, except like we said, she sees something and she starts to run. The next part is probably the most different that I've seen because I mean, besides what Aerith does in the original, the right hand side, like if you go to 241, 240, you can see inside this like diner area and it's all nicely lit and it's got like wood tables and it's kind of like a coffee shop almost. I think I wrote it down what it's called. Regardless, doesn't matter. But in the original, this was a very dark area with just like a neon sign that said like Goblin's Bar. And so they've kind of lit this area up a little bit and cleaned it up a little bit and gave it a little bit more lighting. And then on the left hand side, there was like a place that was called, I think, Confessions or something like that. And they just got rid of that. And now it's just, they moved the Loveless sign down. So they've kind of changed this area. So that's a little different, but obviously they've changed this as well. She bumps into somebody and goes down to pick the flower up before she just kind of walked out to the street and that was it. But
Yeah. Now like you said, somebody bumps into her and she drops her flowers, and kind of like how we saw in the first half of this trailer, like the people kind of pay it no mind, right? They don't care. Nobody stops to help her pick up the flowers or anything.
they just
Like
step on the flower. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who bumps into her kind of just keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the only real different part is they just give her a little more screen time. In the original one, she just walks out to the city and it's already starts zooming out.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to like, oh God, like it goes so fast. At like 310, I mean, you'll see like the bar, the kind of cafe thing on the right with like the phone booths outside. Like if you just go back and watch the original, like it's super dark over there, and all you see is just like a bar, right?
Right.
So it was a lot grungier and dirtier, I think. I mean, they still kind of got that element here with like how dirty this I don't want to say dirty, but just kind of grimy things look on the ground. And then obviously next to it, they changed the place that was Confessions out with just Loveless. They moved that down, so that's just
everyone's favorite poem / play.
Yeah, I was actually kind of curious about that till they made Crisis Core, and then I was like, God, these guys need to read something else.
I swear I will riot if you walk in front of the Loveless Theater and some NPC goes, there used to be a guy who wore a red coat who used to like to come here all the time. I'm like, no, he didn't.
Yeah, well, I'll just be happy if that's the only reference. Right?
That's true. If that's all that we get, then that'll be a win, right? Of that character.
Yeah.
I have to pay Gak more money.
Yeah. Anyways, so like the camera's panning out and it's basically the same, although you get to see more businesses and stuff because it's panning out at a little bit different of an angle. We saw a studio something, I don't know, but one thing I thought was kind of interesting is as it's panning out, I tried to go back and watch the original to see if like this was as apparent. Hold on, okay, so if we go to, I'm almost there, 333. If you look on the left-hand side at 333, I mean, it was kind of like in the original, it was kind of like there was stuff covering this, like smoke and stuff, so you couldn't really see. But this is like, I guess I never noticed that there was such a huge chunk of like this sector that just isn't covered. And I wonder if a lot of the sunlight that does leak through is from sections like this,
Is that sector 6 that's like on the west? That's all.
Yes.
Up looking.
Yeah.
What? I don't. I'm trying to remember what's in Sector 6. Isn't the wall market in that area?
No, that's Sector 5 also. Sector 6 in the original game is incomplete. They're still
Incomplete.
building it. So, like Hat said in the original opening, when they pan out, like when they do this classic opening, there's like a bunch of smoke kind of really billowing up in that part, and then the logo comes in, and it's really big. It covers a big chunk of the screen, so you can't really see it very well. Like you can kind of see it, that it's just kind of gray.
Right.
But then when you go into the Shinra building, there's a little mini game you have to play on one of the floors where you have to get parts, and then there's like a model of the city, like in a room.
Oh
I don't know if you
yeah, and
remember
it's like it's broken. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then Sector 6 is the only one you don't have to put the parts in because
They're still
it says
building it.
specifically like still under construction. When it's complete, like the Midgar city planning initiative or whatever will be fulfilled.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
hasn't been completed.
Yeah. Good call on that
Neat.
one.
Yep, so that's faithful. You just couldn't see the kind of detail they're showing it in here before.
Kind of
That'll be-
sucks though if you want to go to Sector, if you want to go to Sector 7, you got to drive all the way from Sector 5 all the way around until you get to where you want to go, even though it's technically one plate over.
Yeah.
Well, can we? That's true. When I can empathize with that. When I lived in Florida, we used to have to cross the Skyway Bridge, and sometimes you couldn't get on the Skyway. So the only way to get across the water, it would be like a 3-hour drive. Or if you took the Skyway, it was like 30 minutes. It was infuriating. But at like 3:36, can we just talk about how big like this tower is? Like Jesus Christ. Compared,
Yeah.
it's like almost the size of like an entire sector.
The very top of that is like where the president is, right?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
It looks way higher than the 70 floors or whatever it was
Yeah.
said, right?
This is like literally like an eighth of the city. Like it's so big. And then look at these lights, dude. These lights, the 3 lights that are at the bottom. One of those
yeah.
lights is probably like an entire neighborhood size. Like, can you imagine how hot it must get? I mean,
Just imagine when they installed the Mako cannon on there.
Yeah.
oh man, yeah.
That whole thing falling on your plate.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I hope
Like,
nobody.
you sure that thing's fruity up there? Yeah, it's all good.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I hope nobody has like an apartment next to those lights, right?
yeah, you're just like, Jesus Christ.
You never get any sleep.
Someone buys this new house and he's like, "Oh, I got this in the best area, nice neighborhood." And they put a Mako laser over it the next day, and you just complete
like
shade over your new home.
119 degrees all year.
Like, well, someone's signing up to Avalanche.
Well, dude, not to mention that if you go further in at like 338, 339, like imagine like this house over here in the left-hand corner, kind of midway lower area. That's like right next to this reactor that's just blowing crap out. Like you can't tell me like that's good for you. Like that's got to be like the worst place in the entire city to have a house. I would rather live under the. Honestly, if you live under the plate, it's probably better for you, maybe in some ways, because you're just not getting this crap rained down on you.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyways, we've really read into this.
You know, at kind of like 334, 335,
Okay.
you can see between the Sector 5 and Sector 4, there's like big gaps between the plates. And you can kind of see like the lights of the slums down there.
Yeah, so they have these little gaps. I was looking at that, and I'm trying to think of like logistically light getting into the church, and I can imagine maybe it comes in through one of these cracks or something.
Yeah.
Something light along those lines. But
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. That's something they couldn't really depict, with the technology in the original.
I'm just really noticing how too they keep the industrial self outside the plate instead of inside.
Yeah, there's all this stuff on the outside. Yeah. I don't know. This is looking really good though. I really like it. It is a little ridiculous, like we pointed out with these neighborhood size lights. and 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 just the reactors and everything. But it's looking just like it should. I think it looks really good. If we keep going here, we got the reveal of the logo. I'm still wondering if they're ever going to change it from, you know how like sometimes games have like little project names and then they'll change it. Like Octopath Traveler used to be Project Octopath, and then it became Octopath Traveler. I'm still waiting for them to like change Final Fantasy VII Remake to Final Fantasy VII Origins of Sephiroth or something like that.
It's not
Like,
going to happen. They've already made all the covers and everything.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
it would have been a long time ago.
yeah, they've already committed to it. So at 3:45, 3:46, we start to get the close up on the train, and it's getting a lot of quick cut scenes, quick cuts between scenes here with zooming in on the city, and then it'll go back to the train. In the original, this was a really cool thing because it took a CG cutscene and then it faded into live gameplay seamlessly without a load screen. It was really ahead of its time to be able to do that. So that's pretty cool that I don't know if they're going to keep that same thing, but it looks like it's kind of just zooming down into the city just like the original, which is pretty cool.
They transition to the game engine kind of with like the camera like kind of goes behind some smoke, and then when it comes out the other side, it's the game engine.
That's cool. I'm glad they're keeping that.
And we actually see Cloud on the top of the train instead of him flipping out of it.
Well,
simply.
Yeah, at 3:58, we actually see Cloud on top. I like these high railings because I used to hate. I don't know. I can't remember like how high the railings were when I like was playing Crisis Core or just like Final Fantasy VII, but it used to like kind of irk me a little bit because I felt like with the train moving so fast and it would go through tunnels and stuff, like you don't know what's hanging down in that tunnel, right? Like you could clearly just get severely killed or injured, from something that's like you can't see. So I imagine with these high railings that when they're going through like fast tunnels, like we've seen in the game where they, they're going through these like subway areas, that they could just kind of crouch below the railing. Like there's enough space for them to, make sure they'll make it. So it's kind of a more realistic touch.
Yeah. I didn't think of that.
But we see Cloud here. This is where he's infamously saying, "I'm Cloud, soldier first class." from Crisis Core. That's they kind of
Crisis Core, yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of have that moment there.
So this beginning scene's pretty faithful to the original. The Avalanche crew comes out first and they take out some of the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think at 4:10, let's go there. There the train actually stops. You see kind of the soldiers there and they're like kind of looking around the train and stuff, and he notices one of his buddies is missing, it looks like. And then
he hears like a sound or like a gag kind of.
Yep. And then all of a sudden he finds out he was looking the wrong direction because he's now being choked. Right. And then we see, dude, I hate this part. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I don't hate this part, but Jessie comes out and runs at him and does this kick. And I paused. I went super slow, and like her foot never makes impact with his stomach.
Oh, does it not?
No. So I'm going at 0.25 speed here. We're watching it and it stops right before it hits his shirt. And I'm just like, was that yeah, it like never hits his stomach. And then, but after that, like, he's like apparently like KO'd. So I don't know. I imagine they didn't intend for me to watch this at quarter speed, but
true.
it was kind of funny. It just didn't touch or make impact.
They'll fix it in the PS5 version, right?
They'll finally have true impact. Yeah. Yeah. But now we have the full Avalanche sidekicks. Here we have Jesse Biggs and Wedge. And then we're going to get our first glimpse of Barrett here.
I wonder if Barrett's just going to run past the two guards like the original, and Cloud has to take him on. That'd be hilarious if they
That
do
would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Real nod to the original. At 4:49, we can see a close up of Barrett's tattoo. And I was trying to look this up, like, what does this actually mean? Like, is there a significance behind it? Because there has to be, right? And from everything I read online, there was people were like, yeah, it's a flaming skull. And there's no reason for Barrett to have that other than he thought it looked cool. So
There you go.
maybe when we meet Dine, he'll have a
flaming
one
skull
on his other arm. Like, we were brothers. We both got these tattoos the same day.
Yeah, maybe. You know what it reminds me of though? Like it kind of makes sense because like I know in like the 90s or late 90s and like early 2000s, it was really popular to get like barbed wire tattoos on your arm.
Oh yeah.
For like no apparent reason, right? And like I could just imagine this being like a fad of just like getting stuff like that on you. And then like 20 years from now, you're like, yeah, no, I just thought it looked cool.
I will say though, one of my biggest compliments I can give the game is I actually like Barrett's redesign. I don't like when he wears sunglasses where they're not needed.
Man,
But
dude, we already talked about those massive lights in Midgar.
but I think they met a fair compromise of still making him look big and intimidating while not looking too over the top in the context of
the game,
the realism they're trying to present.
So check. I agree, but at 4:47, pause it there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how many belts this guy has around his stomach.
Look, man, he's a Tetsuya Nomura character. He's going to have belts, okay?
Yeah, but how does he clip all those? He's only got one arm.
Like I don't know. Like I want to actually look at this. I want to see if there is like any like intent or like there's actually some form of logic to these things. Because I see they're like all like just like normal buckles like on the backpack. Or like something that the military does use, but what are they attached to? What's he keeping up?
Well, maybe if he unbuckles it, like he has a massive gut that just plops out.
Because he has a normal shirt under it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got, I mean, it doesn't have to have some tactical purpose. It's like you said, it's Nomura, but
yeah,
it's,
I mean, there's no I don't see any purpose to it besides just looks or it's just his form of body armor. I don't know.
Well, it's very, I mean, it looks cool, but it's very, not realistic for his character. Look, I had an uncle who lost movement in one of his arms, right? So he could only move his right arm, and he would constantly struggle with things like belts because trying to do that with one hand on your own, you know, he does it, but it's kind of a hassle.
Can clearly see, Barrett does not have a problem getting belt buckles on,
especially these clip ones, dude. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Like this guy just mastered it. Then he's got another one for his arm. Like, I mean, he's really. Anyways, let's move on from this.
It's fascinating stuff. I tell you.
Barrett belt buckle analysis only here.
Well, they've cut down. At least it's not like an entire outfit like Lulu, right?
He's pretty close.
He's close, but there is some fabric here, you know.
Somewhere in Square Enix headquarters, Nomura was like, "I want 12 belts on Barrett," and Kitase had to talk him down to 6. Right?
Yeah.
Like, Mura, what? It is enough.
His pants are being kept up. Yeah. At 4:54, we see the back of Barrett, and you kind of see a good glimpse of his machine gun arm. This is another thing that like I've kind of been curious how they're going to handle here, because like the size of this machine gun, right? There's got to be a lot of recoil on that, and the fact that it's going right into his arm, like dude, I have to imagine like that would just be like blowing his arm out of the socket constantly. Obviously it's fantasy, so, and plus Barrett's just Jack, so maybe he just takes it, but it's, I look at this little like fabric thing that's like holding this machine gun on, and I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Well, it has
Do you
like
think
a
grip?
Yeah.
Like when he's like in a normal place, like say maybe he's in the upper plate for some reason, in a place where like he's trying to like just like lay low. It's
Mhm.
hard to lay low when you have a giant machine gun on your arm.
That's what I'm
Like, do you
saying.
think he takes that off
He has
and then
to.
like put something else on? Like, and to Avid Children's credit, I thought it was actually a good idea. He had an arm that could like transform between like a normal robotic arm and a gun.
Like Mega Man.
Yeah, like similar to Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that was actually a good idea. But you know, they're keeping the tradition with this, so I wouldn't ask them to change it.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking to myself, how does Barrett get around under normal circumstances, or does he just not leave the slums at all?
Well, that's the thing, because he's the leader, the new leader of Avalanche, right? And, you know, he's Shinra #1 enemy at this point in the game. And clearly he's on the wanted posters, or like, you know, they're talking about them on the news, because the game brings up that they talk about Avalanche on the news. And like, this guy's just walking around with this machine gun arm. Like, he would, like, how many people in Midgar are walking
Have a
around
machine
with,
gun arm.
yes, that are this big too, with
Right.
with a flaming skull tattoo on the other side. Like, he's got to be. And then like the other crew members of Avalanche, they all wear red bandanas. Like, you know, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
guys, we're nitpicking it because we're having fun here. I'm not actually
Yeah,
criticizing the game for this.
This is like an issue in the original game also, so I'm not faulting the remake by any means, but like, it's the question of how does Barrett get around? Like that is such a distinguishing feature, a machine gun. Like, how many people do you see around that have guns attached to their arm?
Yeah.
And a dude as big as he is, it's like if someone puts up wanted posters for Barrett, like someone's going to notice right away, be like, "Holy shit, that's him."
Yeah, like I saw this guy at the market, or I saw this guy on the train. Granted, now he's walking around with a blonde-haired guy with a giant sword on his back, so that's got to be really noticeable too, but not as bad as Barrett for sure. How do y'all feel about this kind of awkward backflip? I know it's very, like, it pays tribute to the original, it pays tribute to the PS3 tech demo we got, and and everything. So they're trying to, you know, be nostalgic about it. But when I look at this backflip, I'm like, man, that is so Advent Children. Like,
Bell's a dork and he likes to show off.
like, why are you doing a backflip off this train? And the other thing is too, like, what were you doing on top of the train for so long? Like everyone else took care of the soldiers, and you're just kind of chilling up there waiting for them. Then Barrett's like, okay, Cloud, it's okay to come down now. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, there's nothing to do up there. Like, what's he doing up there, I wonder? Anyways, they're just being faithful to the original. That's all.
Yeah,
It's just,
very much.
and then the realistic view here, it's easy to like pick apart and be like, well, this doesn't make sense. But yeah, so that's the opening of the game. I think it's pretty positive. I like it. So
Yeah, I like it a lot too.
I have no issues with it. I think I think what's new in there isn't very intrusive and shows a little more to Midgard that we haven't gotten before. So, I mean,
Also, yeah.
no complaints from me.
Also, if this is like the very beginning of the game, like you boot it up and you hit new game and you get that desert, you know, and then it just goes in. It's also pretty fast, like 5 minutes, you know, and then presumably right here you're playing the game. That's pretty good, you know. That's better than a lot of Final Fantasy games.
yeah, it's true. I mean, if you go to play Final Fantasy 12, like, you might as well make some popcorn because you got a little movie. It's a good movie, but you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens. So that's very true.
And just because you all love Final Fantasy 7 Remake content talk so much, we got more.
Yep.
Please be excited. Okay. So sorry, I was getting all the URLs up. So yeah, like just Eric mentioned, we do have more Final Fantasy 7 Remake we're going to get into. This was already on the agenda before, because we start to make our topics on Thursday and we kind of tweak them over the weekend. So we already had this as a topic, and then they dropped this opening movie, and we're like, all right, we're just gonna Final Fantasy VII remake it up. But we still have some other non Final Fantasy VII remake stuff to get into after this. But let me get this up on the screen here. So this is basically just an article from PlayStation.com, and it's just going over some new screenshots and just some more detail with some of the gameplay that Square has released about the game. We're going to skip some of the Red 13 and the Hojo stuff because, come on, Square, that's not really that new. Like, I think the Hojo one, like, is literally like a screenshot from the trailer that they've already released. So, anyways, we got some battle stuff, but we'll get into that once they come out with another trailer, which I'm sure they will. And, or maybe we can go into it in another week, but we want to get right into this mercenary quest. Now, Eric, I think you kind of mentioned, if I remember correctly, like you thought this was going to be like a thing, like, you know, Cloud's a mercenary, that they'll have mercenary quests that you can take in Midgar to, you know, kind of pad the game out a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily said that they would use Cloud's, the fact that Cloud's a mercenary as a narrative reason for the side quest, but I did pretty much expect the game to have little side quests
like this,
hanging off hanging off of the, you know, the side quest.
Yeah.
Would have this type of content in it.
Yeah. I gotta, like, I'll be slightly positive here, but then I'm just gonna trash this. So I think it's really cool that they're kind of taking a lore approach, you know, because Cloud takes on the job with Barrett and Tifa because he's a mercenary. And from his memory, he remembers Zack and him going to Midgar to become mercenaries. That's what they said they were going to do. So the fact that he's taking on mercenary quests, I think, is a very good lore reason for him to do that. In contrast to Final Fantasy 15, where we had a prince who was like collecting frogs, like it didn't make any sense, right? So this makes sense, and I'm getting like Witcher vibes from this, kind of, because, you know, Geralt's a Witcher. He kills monsters for coin. That's his profession. So you do that in the game. Makes sense. But what I really, really have a problem with this, and I'm baffled by, is look at the quests that they try to show off here. I mean, the second one, the one that's currently highlighted, it's called Rat Problem. Are you freaking kidding me? Like the generic rat problem, like, oh, go kill 20 rats in the cellar. I mean, okay, I'm sure there's story quests that are good, but like if you're trying to dip your toe in like the Western RPG market, right? Then why are you not taking a nod from games that are like renowned and acclaimed for being excellent, like The Witcher, or even like Horizon Zero Dawn, which kind of walks the line between RPG and action adventure, but like those games have quests that like enhance the story, right? Like like during the quest, it enhances the world. Like all these quests should be fleshing out how bad Shinra is, or you know, how bad it is for the people in Midgar. Like the rat problem, I guess you could make a case it kind of does that, but like who hires a mercenary to kill rats? Or like, or oh yeah, a mercenary is gonna go look for lost friends. You know, like this is like, I haven't played the game, but like it looks to me like this is very much the same problem Final Fantasy 15 had with its quest structure, and that it's just generic, go find this person, go kill this enemy quest.
It's exactly what it looks like.
Well,
it looks just like FF15's like definition of world building in these smaller quests. The only thing I can hope they do is that they have significant side quests, and maybe these are just like pick up ones you can do to get more EXP and gil, and they're not like very consequential if you decide to take them on or not in terms of world building.
yeah.
But maybe these are significant ones out there. I'm not saying they are, but that would be really nice if it did. And if these were like smaller things that are like in between them, that'd be nice. But I have my doubts.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I'm just baffled. Like, I kind of knew like they would have some of this stuff in here to pad the game out. Cause like we said, 100 gigabytes possibly for the game. and it's going to be just Midgar. Like they're clearly padding it out, right? So I imagine there's going to be a lot of this stuff in here, but the fact that they're choosing this to show off is baffling to me. And then like the little statement under it, it says Cloud can help out the many people across Midgar, including local merchants. These tasks are varied. He'll be asked to deal with anything from taking out troublesome monsters to finding lost cats. Like,
yes,
lost
cats. I'm in.
I'm pre-ordering this game now.
But then it says another thing I noticed too. Notice it says Chapter 3, Home Sweet Slum.
Yeah.
So the game is obviously like different chapters, and you go through different parts of the game in different areas. Now, what I ask is, like, say if I didn't do Quest 5 and 6 that are not even showing up on here, can I come back later? Or do I have to do, or is it like Too Bad So Sad? Or is it like you can go back to previous chapters of the game with your same stats? And
well, that would mean these quests are story based, I would think. And if you look at, like, we get an idea of like a nether quest in the next sentence after what I just read. It says, in this quest, Cloud is asked to deal with some drakes. He'll get valuable rewards for completing the task. Like this looks to me like the monster killing thing that we've seen in Final Fantasy 12, which is like a 11-year-old, 12-year-old game, and was in Final Fantasy 15 also. So, I mean, I don't know, Eric. I mean, it's, I guess once you leave this chapter, it's possible these could be kind of, you missed them, but dude, I'm really just, I mean, if they could have done better than this, I mean, at the very least, don't do rat problem. That's like the most generic quest I've ever seen. That's in like every RPG known to man.
I hate the Brigantine, man, but I think this is a very linear to a fault type of game. And if there is any backtracking to it, I think it's not going to be a natural type of backtracking. It's going to be it'll let you jump between chapters type of deal.
Well,
but it's not going to have a narrative thing to it. Like, you remember Final Fantasy 15 before, like, they jumped to like the whole second half of the game story wise. They put the dog there. That's like, you can come back to before the Alticia event happened and get side quests done. I really think that's what they're going to do for this game. I could be completely wrong. They have some like thought out structure to it, but I really think also that's something they're likely doing is this.
It's probably sectioned off, like you said, the fact that it's under chapter 3. I guess my emphasis is I don't really care. Because like, if I don't do the rat problem quest, unless like it's giving me some like crazy reward, that's fine. But like, dude, like, okay, like let's think of The Witcher, right? His profession is he kills monsters, so he'll take on contracts to kill monsters, but during that, it will flesh out the world of the story, or the character that the world that you're in, right? Like, imagine instead of a rat problem, I came up with an idea. How about people are sick in a sector of Midgar, kind of like where we see this guy is sick in the original, and Cloud reluctantly takes us on because he's a mercenary. It's not really mercenary work, but he takes it on because whoever's in his party, Aerith, wants him to do it. And during the course of events, he finds out that like an executive from Shinra is like just dumping crap into the water supply because they don't care about the underground area, or there's like a criminal element that's just like blocking like health sanitation from coming in. And that's why people are getting sick, and Cloud has to kill a bunch of the criminals, right? To kind of save the town, and like, so people stop getting sick. You could still do that, and it would be very similar to Nuisance in the Factory, right? But like, it wouldn't be generic. It would be something that like enhances Shinra and like makes him bigger and more evil. The fact that he's letting this go on. I mean, like there's a way you can make these quests not be so generic. And it just, I'm baffled because this is like one of the biggest criticisms from Final Fantasy 15 was just the lameness of these quests. And I mean, I don't know, maybe the rat problem will end up being some like, maybe a year from now, I'll be on here being like, dude, The rat problem.
problem.
That was an
Genius.
epic quest line.
I actually would have respected them a little more if they just stuck to the main story, but they added like a billboard throughout each chapter that lets you take on quests, but they're not like tied to an NPC just so you can get experience.
Yeah.
Because that's borderline what they're doing anyways.
Right.
I don't think they know how to world build. Like, seriously, the FF14 team is like downstairs. Open the door, be like, hey, how do you build a world? They're like, you need good writers, you need someone who actually cares and backtracks the lore. We don't have time for that shit. And just shuts the door. Like, put basic bitch quests in there or something.
We need 2 Blu-ray discs worth of fetch quests.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
I don't know.
My guess is there will be like little tidbits of world building in these fetch quests, but not enough to distract from the fact that they're fetch quests and feel like a waste of time. Like rat problem, right? The reason will probably be like down in the sewers or something. There's the rats have like eaten through the rusted Mako pipe or something, right? And so they're like drinking up Mako, and it's turned them into these huge monster rats that need to be taken care of or something. So you go down there and then you patch up the pipe, and Tifa will make some comment to Cloud like, see like what Mako energy is doing, to people. It's it's mutating our rats or whatever.
So instead of calling an exterminator who probably excels at getting rid of these rats, you hire a mercenary with a giant sword to go down there and kill tiny little rats.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in this modern setting, like clearly they have exterminators, and I thought, okay, well maybe he doesn't have money to hire an exterminator. Well, he has money to hire a mercenary.
Well, my guess is they're going to be like mutated giant rats, like waist high, if they're standing up like on their hind legs, kind of.
All right.
Rats.
So what is your thought process for nuisance in the factory? And I think that's probably where he deals with some drakes.
I have no idea.
Are these drakes also feeding on a broken pipe?
Also a broken pipe.
Oh, the screenshot right to the left.
I mean,
yeah,
it
looks like those bird monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might get some like banter between Tifa and Cloud. Like maybe Cloud will be like, hey, this guy pays better than Barrett did for me to blow up a Mako reactor or something,
That's true. In this right-hand picture, this guy's getting 500 gil. And I don't know if this is the rat problem guy. I don't know. No, he's the nuisance in the factory guy. Okay, you can kind of see that nuisance in the factory in the top screenshot. Then in the screenshot under that on the right, you see the same guy as nuisance in the factory. Okay, you just completed the quest. Oh God, I'm an idiot. It says right there, nuisance in the factory. So I'm wondering, this looks like a factory on the left-hand side. I don't think it's unreasonable to think this is the nuisance in the factory.
Yeah, the normal bird enemy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm debating maybe skipping these in my first playthrough, because back when I played Final Fantasy 15, it was advertised as like an open world, and I didn't play very many open worlds outside of like a Assassin's Creed game or so, or a few of them, at the time. And I thought like, oh well, but this is like a RPG, and like people say like open world RPGs are much better, like there's a lot more
to do
and explore, and you got to really explore every nook and cranny of the world. And I did that, and I was like completing as many of those tedious little quests as I could, right? But then I had a friend who was like, started playing FF15. He started doing the quests, and after like the 4th or 5th one, he was like, these are kind of lame. I think I'm done with these. And then he just proceeded with the main story for the rest of the game, and he had a way better time with the game than I did. So
yeah,
I'm considering like giving these like a try, kind of like how he did. But yeah, if they're tedious, if like finding lots cats, is as boring as it sounds, then I may just skip them for the first playthrough. And then I'm sure I'm going to end up playing the game more than once. And then I can really go back and do them all if I really want to, and have more of a fair assessment.
That's a good point, because before Final Fantasy 15 came out, they were saying it was a 50-hour game, right? And I barely did my first playthrough. I barely did any quests, and I beat the game in like 24 hours, right?
Yeah. And isn't it a better game that way?
It was much better because it was like the story was just streamlined, right? It didn't feel necessary. So,
Yeah. So if these are bad, like if they end up not being good or worthwhile, don't let that little reward like entice you to do boring gameplay. You know, just skip them.
yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah. I mean, it looks like this is not a main part of the game, in that it's not like a core element. This just seems like something extra they threw on there. So as long as it's optional, I don't want to criticize it too hard, and that you know it's not a core element of the game. You're not forcing me to play this, but at the same time, I like right when I saw this and I saw Rat Problem, I thought this was a joke. Like I didn't think this was real, and then I was like, but it's on PlayStation.com. Oh, they're not really known for jokes. Like, and then you read the sentence under it. It's they actually advertise that the cloud can help find lost cats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely just would not expect much from these side quests.
Yeah. We have the battle report, which this is even more baffling to me. I'm sorry, guys. I really
Yo, dog, I heard you like side quests, so we put side quests in your side quests.
Yeah, I really like the intro to this game, and there's a lot of other stuff I really like about this game. I don't think it's going to be a bad game at all. But this says, meet Chadley, a 15-year-old research trainee working under Professor Hojo. He's researching new types of materia and needs a little help from Cloud. And then they show a picture of Tifa and Cloud. Why would Tifa and Cloud help Chadley to help Professor Hojo, who makes magic and stuff that fights them, and like Hojo's the enemy? Like, is Aerith helping them? Like, Hojo's trying to like breed her. Like, why would they be helping Hojo?
You remember like that show, Mr. Wizard? He was like a crazy scientist that had that little assistant with him. He always used as a guinea pig.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's like a parody on the dinosaurs. They're like, here, Timmy, I want you to hold this little chemical right here, and I want you to mix it together with this. Now, don't do it quite yet. I need to get behind this little barrier right here before you do it. Like, oh, is it gonna be all right, Mr. Wizard?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I think when I see Chadley right there. He's the guinea pig. He's the one that Hojo's gonna do horrible stuff to. And he's like, oh man, he's such a great scientist, though.
Yeah, we're like sitting there helping him out. I mean, look, Cloud, I don't know what he remembers from his ordeal, but if he remembers anything, he remembers like, oh, I don't like Hojo. And I have to suspect that Tifa does not like Hojo either. You know, so it's just weird.
I don't think she would know who he is unless Cloud tells her.
I don't know. You think the director of research and development?
I'm going to tell you this. If I was infiltrating Shinra headquarters to go save Eris, I would definitely come to this kid and kidnap him and force him to take us into the building.
That's true.
That would be the very first thing I do.
Yeah. You want your research assistant back?
Look, guys, I'm not saying that you can't logic wheel your way out of this, right? And make like all these like a house of card of logic to make this somewhat make sense, that like Hack could just come along and slightly blow and it will all fall over. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying this was a bad idea to begin with, and Chadley should not work for Hojo. He should work for somebody else, and it would be fine.
No one should work for Hojo.
Like,
I think the easiest explanation is Cloud and Tifa just won't know who Hojo are. But then if he announces like I'm Hojo's research assistant, then they should logically be like, oh, this guy works for Shinra. We don't want to help him.
Well, I think that Cloud, for sure, I would say there's a 90% chance Cloud knows who Hojo is. If he remembers anything from the 4 years he was operated on, right? He knows who Hojo is. That was his experiment, right? Plus he was in the military, etc. But okay, I would think even more so Aerith knows who Hojo is, right? Because her affiliate deal with the Turks her entire life, and You know, Hojo wants to experiment on her and everything. And
Yeah.
plus the stuff with her mom, right? So it's, I don't know. If they just kind of dance around it that he doesn't actually work for Hojo, and like this is a spoiler, and it ends up finding out like halfway through the game he works for Hojo.
Very,
Yeah.
very likely he's the very bottom of the totem pole. There's probably like
Well, I don't think he's an executive.
seven to eight people above him
Yeah.
that like he's like tier 1, he answers to tier 2, and Hojo himself is like tier 10. Like in terms of spectrum of like the business or whatever, he's probably just like high school level intern,
Yeah.
like under scientists, and like that is probably that. He very likely does not directly respond to Professor Hojo.
I get it,
Maybe
but
maybe
given
he's a defector actually. Maybe he was a research assistant for Hojo, and like the reason he's helping Avalanche is because he doesn't like Hojo or doesn't like the Shinra anymore.
I think he's just oblivious to who Cloud and Tifa are.
well, it
That could
says
be too.
a 15-year-old research trainee working under Professor Hojo. So perhaps what Stan's saying is true. They just don't want to spoil it. In that case, I will eat my words if that's the case. However, if while playing this game, if this kid says, "Hi, my name's Chadley. I'm a trainee working under Professor Hojo, and I'm researching new types of materia to help him in his research. And we're going to use this materia to kill Avalanche." And then you're like, Cloud's like, "Oh, can we help?" Like, like
They
I'm
should
gonna,
just kill him on the spot right there.
yeah, I'll be like, okay, this game's done. Like, no, maybe not. Maybe the outer edges are rough, but the core element, the core story is good. I'm just having fun, guys. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is an element to help you create new materia, though. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're gonna have like a crafting type element to this, right?
Nah.
Well, I don't know if it's crafting or it's just you kind of do the quest that he says and you come back and he gives you a different materia every time.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see how they're going to get 100 gigs.
Yeah.
I'm never a fan of crafting stuff.
Yeah. Are you on this screenshot where he's kind of standing in front of Chadley?
Yes. It's got a triangle over him. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed kind of in the top right of this screenshot, there's like 4 or 5 civilian looking dudes like wearing like they're kind of wearing just civilian general clothing, but they're holding like these big rifles. And then there's like a makeshift wall. Yeah, there's like makeshift wood wall, like kind of in the top right behind the radar. And I was wondering, like, what is this area? Are they like in like a guarded area down in the slum somewhere? Because there's also a sign on the left
with
that has
exclamation
some
marks.
Japanese. It has some Japanese, and then it says "security on patrol." It's on the wall.
Oh yeah, it is.
So like, are these the security guys? And if they are, like, they're not Shinra, right? So
I think he's gonna be like a Chocolina thing from like FF13 too, where like he's somehow like, even though you've gone through all this crap to get to the next place, like he's somehow there in the next chapter.
Yeah, I don't think he's like that's true. Like, or like the Waka from Final Fantasy X, not Waka, Owaka, the traveling salesman. It's like, dude, how are you everywhere and like no one else can, get to, but anyways, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think he's going to be like a major critical aspect to the story or anything like that. It's something frivolous. They just added in there. It's just, oh my God, it makes me smack my forehead when I see the premise behind it. They're like, Professor Hojo's a scientist. He makes materia. I got it. This could be a quest line. Anyways.
Down this article, I've got to talk about how stupid these summons look. I got to do it.
Cactar looks good. Right? One out of 3 ain't bad.
Before you say how stupid it is, we've been getting pretty negative. If there's anything you like about the summon, say that first.
It reminds me that I want to watch Dragon Ball Z again.
Okay, I'll give you that. That's like this is like a little Saiyan.
Nomura could not help himself. He Nomura'd the Chocobo chick. He's got freaking spiky, pretty hair and like handsome looking eyes. And this is a tiny little Chocobo chick. And like even in the screenshots, he lights up like a Super Saiyan.
It's like Big Bird almost, but as a little kid.
But
Yeah.
funny enough, this isn't the worst looking summon I've seen from these pictures. If
Now,
you scroll down a little more, this is the dumbest incarnation of Carbuncle I have ever seen.
He's got a big jewel in his forehead.
It's got a big Megamind freaking brain skull with the ruby there. And I checked the original FF7 to see if this is just like a faithful creation of it.
No.
It is not. No here. Like this is like if Eevee and Megamind fused together.
Yeah, and like what I don't understand about this is like we've seen some really good stuff with the summons, but these summons you get for like as a pre-order bonus, and I'm just like, oh man, come on, like what's the story reason for why you have these, right? Like why do you have these summons? Are we gonna acknowledge that these summons exist in the story? Or is Cloud just gonna be like, well, you pre-ordered the game, so now I have Carbuncle.
Thanks for reminding me not to pre-order the game. Sheesh, look how ugly that thing is.
It's the digital deluxe edition. I don't know. I mean, it uses this gem to bestow a variety of powers on its allies. So
they could do that without the freakish forehead.
Now at least we have
maybe,
the Cactar. That's kind of cool.
Maybe the Carbuncle is Carbuncle after Hojo's experiments on it, right?
Maybe this is Chadley. after he's done with his internship.
It makes you more surprised they didn't do much with the Cactar. I'm like, hey, where's the belt buckle and the stupid hair on the Cactar?
Yeah,
Nomura obviously didn't design this one.
This is also a former intern trying to escape. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, but they've showed some really good looking summons. Like we saw Leviathan and we saw Shiva, right, and Ifrit, and those all looked really, really good. So it's not like I think they just kind of like cheesed these summons because they're like, okay, you're paying for these, like you didn't actually do anything in the game to get them, you know?
Yeah, but like even like I understand you're trying to make more realistic looking ones, like a realistic looking pet out of Carbuncle, but even FF15 to its credit did it right. Like what is like even if I guess if the head didn't look so stupid, I would be more okay with it. Like because if you removed like the fact that like it has a freakish forehead.
Yeah, it does have a big forehead.
It would look kind of cute.
Well, it has a huge forehead, but for no apparent reason, because like the jewel or the gem only takes up like a third of it, right? So it like he could have had a normal size forehead with this jewel in there, too. I don't know. I agree. It does look weird. It's a weird take on Carbuncle, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's part of the digital deluxe edition. I don't think it's going to be a critical aspect of the game. So it does give me kind of
decency to make them optional.
Yeah, it does give me kind of cause for concern with some of their judgment here. The Chocobo chick. It says the Chocobo chick may look cute. May is the correct word because to me this does not look cute. This looks scary. Like that's not cute at all, right? But
Chocobo may look cute, but don't be fooled. It is actually quite very stupid looking.
You may think this looks cute, but look up, at its head. Right. Anyways, so we're trashing on these summons, but we're just having fun, guys. Obviously, this isn't a core element of the game. Man,
how do you feel that a stupid little bird has prettier hair than you do?
Yeah, maybe this would be a good thing for Cloud to have, right? Because they kind of have similar hair. The Chocobo chick, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the inspiration.
Maybe.
Maybe. But last part of this, we have some it says they're gonna show off some new environments, and then it shows us these 2 screenshots of areas we've already seen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
I don't think Square's A team was really helping with this. They're like, oh, I know what we should show them. We should show them the quest structure where you take care of the rat problem, and you help, and Cloud helps people find cats. And then let's show them the thing where Chadley is like asking you to help Professor Hojo. And then we're going to have some of these really dumb looking summons. And then we're going to tell them we're going to show them a new area, but then we're going to show them the same stuff they've already seen.
Yep.
It's just, whoever made, like, they should have got the people that made the opening to the game to work on, you know, this
article.
this article. Cause this is, I feel like they're like, you know what, let's just show them some of the worst parts of this game and we're just going to get it out there.
Yeah. To be fair, they have shown some better articles prior to this one.
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot
This
better.
one is kind of a miss.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, if this was like the first time we were seeing Red 13 or Hojo, it'd be a different story.
That's true.
Right?
I
But
mean,
they showed that in a trailer 2 weeks ago. So,
well, that's the thing that was, all right, I'm just going to calm down. I was just going to, okay, I'll say it. Okay, this screenshot with Hojo, it looks to me like this is literally a screenshot from the trailer. Like they just paused the trailer and then took a
I think so.
screenshot. So, like, that's not, I've already seen that. That's not like I guess the one under it, you see the full model, which is kind of cool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. But like the thing with Red 13, like we've already seen this too. So, you know, whatever, Square. What we need is we need that demo to come out. We need that demo to come out in the PS4 so that way I can actually play it. Maybe I could stream it. That's what I want to see. I want to play the demo. I want to play the game.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm at this point now where I'm done with your breadcrumbs of information.
If that demo doesn't come like the first or second week of March, then it's pretty clear they're going to release it the day, like a week after the game comes out. Something similar they did with Kingdom Hearts 3. They offered a demo for it after the game released.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see. I would hope they would release it on the original release date, March 3rd. That would be like a nice little thing to hold people over.
Yeah, like the game was supposed to come out this day, but at least the
demo did.
The demo did. Yeah. That'd be cool.
The problem with that is that wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't?
I said it would.
Oh, it would. And that's why they won't do it. Yeah.
They'll probably release the demo like a week after the game comes out.
Yeah.
Like, just like, oh, if you hadn't bought it in the last week, here, play this demo.
Yeah.
Joking though. All right. So that is our Final Fantasy 7 Remake coverage for the week. We went over the the opening movie and then some other questionable material on the PlayStation.com article. So we'll have to see. Let's move on here, though, before we jump into the Dragon Quest V movie. We want to just kind of promote some things here that we got going on at the channel. First off, we are media partners with RPG Fan. So if you haven't checked out their website, rpgfan.com, they have RPG news, game reviews, soundtrack reviews. They have 2 other RPG podcasts, Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. So definitely go check them out. Random Encounter does news and kind of general RPG talk. Retro Encounter does more of a book club styled review of games, older games. And so definitely recommend you go check them out. And this week on their YouTube page, they have Tokyo Mirage Sessions. They just did a video review for that. They gave it 89%. Basically said the gameplay is good. The story may resonate with you. It may not. So is what it is, right?
If you like like Japanese pop culture and the Persona type series, then it's a game you will likely enjoy.
Yeah. So go check out their review on their YouTube page. They also obviously do written reviews, quite a lot of them. At the moment, I'm recording some Fire Emblem 3 Houses DLC for them. So I think they're going to do some kind of at least review of that. I don't know if they're just going to take the first 30 minutes or if they just want the footage as backup or if they're going to make a whole review, but they're doing a lot of cool stuff over there. So you should definitely go check them out. Also about our YouTube page, we did a Crisis Core discussion a couple weeks ago. That's in the description of this YouTube page. Total spoilers, 3 hours of nothing but talking about spoilers of Crisis Core. A lot of fun, and we want to keep doing stuff like that. So we're going to be doing a Final Fantasy VII discussion, full spoilers of the entire Final Fantasy VII game, the PlayStation 1, obviously, version. And we'll be doing that before the remake comes out. We're still working out a date for that. But the idea is after that, we'll have the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We'll play that, and we'll be fully up to date with all the little details we've forgotten, if anything. And, we'll make sure we're not missing anything. But definitely recommend that you subscribe or check out our audio version as well. And you can stay up to date with anything that we have coming up. All right, so moving on, we have the Dragon Quest V Your Story movie. This came out in Japan a while ago. We were waiting on the English version to come out. It came out on Netflix about a week ago. And we actually did a Dragon Quest V, me and Eric did a Dragon Quest V discussion where we talked about the game, full spoilers, pretty early into the podcast. But that was the first time I played Dragon Quest V, and I was really impressed with it. I really liked the game, so I was really excited to check this movie out. And, I'm kind of interested to see what Eric has to say because, Eric, you're obviously the Dragon Quest guy here, but just a little snippet of what I think. I liked it ultimately. Like, I think I would rewatch it, but I don't think it's a very good take on the Dragon Quest V story because there's so much stuff that's either been reworked or cut out. But I still, for some reason, I still kind of liked it. What did you think?
I like the movie. It has problems. The thing with it is, if you are a Dragon Quest fan and you are familiar with the Dragon Quest V story, it's a fun movie to watch the scenes unfold. But it's really weird because the pacing of the movie is just so out of whack, and the story transitions they go between, you keep telling yourself, slow down for a second.
Yeah.
Like this is, and you start thinking to yourself, like, are they like, have they, do they have no concept of like how this movie should be paced out? Like, what should they have just made it into a TV series? But when you go through all of it, and I can't spoil it, but I really want to, but I can't. There's a particular thing that happens in the movie that completely changed my mind on what I thought of the movie, and it actually made me like it a whole lot more.
Yeah.
The problem I have is that certain element should have been the premise of the movie to begin with, because it would have made the movie 100% better if you had that knowledge beforehand and it switched to that between the game story and that element.
Mm-hmm.
It would have made the movie much better. So it makes me think, if you watch it again a second time and you have the knowledge of Dragon Quest V, it is actually a much better movie if you see it a second time.
Yeah.
But if you're a normal moviegoer and you're looking for like just like an animated movie to watch, I don't think I could recommend this. It's built for a very specific audience, and it's almost built in the mind that everyone in Japan has played Dragon Quest V and
Mm.
assumes you know the story already.
Right.
Like how you know the story to some fantasy story, say like Cinderella. Everyone knows the story to Cinderella, so like it'll go through like the tropes of it, but it'll give some twist to it. It's
Yeah. I think,
like, as a Dragon Quest fan, I do really like it. I just can't recommend it to a normal moviegoer.
I think what you said earlier about the pacing was like the biggest thing I noticed. Well, there was actually a lot of things I noticed, but If I wanted to, there's a lot of things I liked about it, but if I wanted to talk about faults, I would have to say that it did seem like I was watching a movie on fast forward, because like it would just like get into like a moment that you recognize from the game that would take like there would be all sorts of things happening, but it would just be like, okay, we just got here and now we're leaving. Like, and like you
Yeah.
just skipped a bunch of stuff, or like it would rework elements that like it didn't use from the game and try to make it like kind of like a Easter egg, like, oh, we didn't put this from the game, but like we're gonna rework this one plot point and kind of like reference this. It just like there's a whole third part of the game that's completely missing, and there's other parts that are missing also. But like there's something about it though. Like I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it like when I was watching it, and I think it's because the first off, the dialogue was really well done. Like it wasn't bad dialogue. I felt like it it was noticeably well done. It was kind of funny because I was first had the captions on while I was watching it, and English just it just automatically came on, and the captions was like the dialogue was really basic, but the English voice acting was so much more polished. So that's the other thing too. The voice acting was good, and I was really surprised. I thought I was going to have an issue with the main hero having a voice, because you know the main hero in Dragon Quest games usually don't have voices, but I actually like the main character, the hero, with like he has a whole personality. He has like, you know, a a literal like lots and lots and lots of lines of dialogue, and I don't know, it was kind of fun to explore certain scenes from Dragon Quest V. I think they really delved the most on like the some of the relationships with one particular character, although I still think they could have done more with that. But like I found that like I just enjoyed that so much, just seeing it in this context of what it would be like if the main hero actually talked. So I really liked it for that reason. And like there was so many like good moments, like the animation, like the characters would get embarrassed and like their faces would get all red and stuff. And it was just really funny. So like there's things about it like that that I really liked, but I totally agree with all the faults that you brought up.
Yeah, that's a saving grace of the movie is that I all the characters are great. The animation is beautiful, absolutely jaw dropping beautiful. I really loved the character I particularly loved the most was Bianca.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
she like I thought she completely like stole the movie. Like she was a even though you don't get much of them together, like you didn't get like you barely got to see them as children together, but like them as like adults together, I thought was a really great dynamic. Like Luca is like the more comedic, like more timid, like like scare one. She's like more of the brave, like get your ass in there and do something about it
Yeah.
type of girl. And they just had a great dynamic together, and it just really wanted you to root for them to be the like the chosen married couple. Like if you play Dragon Quest V, like there's a point in the game where you make choices like who you do marry and stuff like
But
that.
it's very clearly implied which one's
But
the
in
canon. Yeah.
Japan, yeah, yeah, it's very heavily implied who gets picked. Um, but yeah, those type of character like interactions were really good. So that was a big saving grace of the movie. You cared about the characters. Just it really all comes down to how much the pacing was. It really makes me think that the it would have been so much better if it was a TV show. Like they could have like taken their time with it and like go through like maybe the first season being him as a kid, second season him as a teenager, and third him as a father type
Yeah.
thing. But you know, it is what it is. And if you see the movie throughout the whole thing and to the end, you'll understand why it is the way it is. It's just I wish, like I said, that element was given at the beginning. So you under and the message and while I say that also, the message that they give at the end was like it really hits home to you if you're someone who really enjoys RPGs and video games as a hobby.
Right.
Like the message they give to you, like I said, just really hits home.
Dude,
With you.
after I finished the movie, there was a part of me that wanted to go back and play Dragon Quest V. Like I was just like, yeah, I want to go play the game again. Like I don't know, like it got to me.
Nice.
Too late.
Oh, you already started, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I of all the video game movies I've seen, right? I don't think this is a very good adaptation of the movie. I will say, or of the video game, I will absolutely say that if you watch this movie and you have not played Dragon Quest V, although it has not, it totally removed large chunks. It added some new stuff in there that wasn't in there before, or like told things from a different way. There's certain reveals that I think are going to spoil the game absolutely because it has some of the highlights of the game, and it definitely hits those moments. Maybe not quite as well, but if you haven't played Dragon Quest V, go play that first before you watch the movie for sure.
I 100% agree. I actually don't recommend watching this movie at all until you play Dragon Quest V first. It doesn't matter which Dragon Quest V, whether it's a Super Nintendo, the PS2, or the DS version.
The
Play
DS
the game
version,
in some form first.
the DS
Like
version,
know what the story is.
yeah, yeah,
Or the PS2 version with
yep,
English patch. That's a good version too.
yeah. But you have to play that on an emulator, right? I don't think they officially released that in the West.
Do I answer that on YouTube? Yes.
It wasn't
I'm
an
just
official
saying
release.
there
Yeah,
are ways to play the game with an English patch, the PS2 version. There are ways.
yeah.
I'll just say that much.
I was watching some of that this weekend on YouTube. I was kind of tempted to boot it up, but I got too much stuff going on. I got Fire Emblem Three Houses, I got Final Fantasy VII, and God knows what else gets stacked on top in between now and Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, like the movie, I thought it was a good movie. It could have done certain elements better, but it wasn't a train wreck, and I enjoyed it for what it was, and I wouldn't mind rewatching it. So that's definitely not a bad Netflix watch at all. Um, Final question here we have is a Discord question from Shatera. Normally we're gonna try to implement a few more Discord questions if we can, but we knew this podcast episode was going to go a little long, so we decided to kind of trim it down a little bit. But we felt like this, or at least I thought this would work well with the Dragon Quest theme. So he says, are there any JRPG tropes or cliches that are disappearing that you actually like and wish would stay? For example, I really like when the main protagonist is characterized as an earnest, quiet, good guy, but finds out he has some demonic side that only comes out during critical moments of high emotion. So I asked Shatera on Discord about that, and Shatera clarified that they're currently playing Trails of Cold Steel, and he felt like that was a big part of the story, and also the Tales of series does it a lot, especially Dawn of the New World. So it's an interesting question because a lot of times we complain so much about JRPG tropes, right? And that, like, you know, we've talked about kind of like the pick your wife stuff and like how it's like overdone with like, and kind of forced in with like games like Fire Emblem now. And we're kind of like, oh, wish it wasn't like that, right? Or just having like childlike characters and everything. But this kind of flips that on its head and says, hey, are there any JRPG tropes that are disappearing that you liked and wish would stay? And it took me a moment to kind of think about this, but I'll go ahead and give some of my quick thoughts here. At first I kind of was thinking more gameplay related. So I was thinking of things like the overworld that you used to have in like PlayStation 1 RPGs. And before that was, you know, Super Nintendo, etc. Being able to do airship exploration. These were always things that were in every JRPG, just about being able to go into an overworld, explore an entire planet, get in an airship, fly wherever you want, land, go into any town. I really liked those aspects of old school JRPGs. Also, first playthrough of the game was usually, you know, between 30, 40 hours, sometimes 25. But newer JRPGs, they tend to be either like 16 hours or 150 hours. It's like, come on, guys, let's get there somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of like the gameplay stuff I was thinking of. I think on story front, probably just having older, like mentor like characters. A lot of JRPGs are not having those characters. They like these super young cast, and they're all high schoolers and stuff. And like, it's just what happened to our Tellas and our Orans and those kind of older crowd that would kind of come along and guide us. I really like those characters. So and I'll kind of stop there because I feel like I've been talking too long. What do you guys got?
I guess if right off the spot, something I can easily think of is I miss when equipment systems used to be very simple.
Okay.
Like back then, you go to a new town. Town has a new sword. Sword has higher attack power. You buy sword, you equip sword, you're done. Go to the next part of the game. Now a lot of these RPGs, especially like the AAA ones, they need to have some, oh, we've added a crafting system so you can improve the weapon that you still ultimately want to replace, or like you have to add slots to it to make it more powerful. You have to add some type of crappy system that you don't feel like dealing with that arbitrarily takes up more time in the game when you just want to get back to the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm fine with like synthesis type deals. Like FF9 did like a great way of simplifying that type of system and made it really fun without it being overbearing. But then you get something like Tales of Berseria, where you just keep constantly upgrading gear and you're just confused on when you should switch out something. Or even then, they just take an equipment system out altogether and they just make you do this like sphere grid like circle thing that adds stats or like fully customize your stats. It's like I don't want every game to be like where I get so much choice to customize something. Sometimes I just want them to do it for me and just get along with the game. That's something like I appreciate again in Dragon Quest games right now is that like they don't go overboard. Like the worst they've done is allow you to upgrade a piece of gear and the crafting thing, but even then it's something that you don't really need to do until the end of the game. Like it encourages you to try it, but you can easily get to the end of the game without having to deal with the crafting system. It's something there if you want it to be, and even then it's stupid simple
Right.
and non-intrusive. I just miss those type of things. And like developers just keep thinking they have to try something new or original with an equipment system. And I think to myself, you don't have to every time. If the game itself is unique enough, you don't need to add these arbitrary little things along with it. And that's mine.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. Stan, what do you got?
Well, there's a bunch that I like, right? But then it's like,
Is
which
it
ones do you have an
disappearing?
issue with that are disappearing? Yeah. So like, yeah, I think the ones you mentioned, like the airship way of exploring the world, like that's great. You know, like who doesn't like that?
Yeah, imagine
You
that.
know,
We like
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's just like a really satisfying, you know, sense of exploration
And
that
it's not the same
is,
when they just like you go to like an airship bay and you like pay money to fast travel somewhere. It's not the same.
yeah, like Final Fantasy 10 or 12,
Right.
right? Yeah, you don't get the same sense of scope right from the world. Like it may sound trivial, but like no, like you get in an airship and you can go from one place to another in whatever 2 seconds, right? But then you can go from like this town to this town and it takes like 15 seconds and you've got like the overworld music playing. It does give a sense of like that was like a much larger distance, right? Because even though it was very fast, like look at the landscape that you passed by you as you know, reached your destination.
Well,
And
it's a
think of how long it took you to travel that distance earlier in the game when you were on foot,
yeah.
you know? So it just like provides a big freedom. the only game I can really think of that in recent memory, like kind of recaptured that was, well, Dragon Quest 11, right? Has it in the kind of the old school way, right? Like the world map is a separate screen.
I ate it up when it did that. I was like, yes, thank
Yes,
God.
yeah. And of course, it really helps that the music for that, though, that part of the game is great. But then Xenoblade Chronicles X, right? For a lot of the game, you're running around, or you're in the robots, which then allow you to travel a lot farther, a lot faster on the ground. But then you do a certain quest line, and it lets you fly. Like you can fly the giant robots around the world, and that's just like really satisfying.
Yeah.
It gets old after a while, and it's annoying that whenever you jump, like the robot takes flight and the music changes and everything when you just wanted to like jump across a bridge or something. But yeah, that kind of gave me the same vibe, but it's not exactly the same because it's a 3D open world environment, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
like
yeah, this is kind of a tough question, other
I'm
than those obvious things.
yeah, I'm with you guys, and like I tend to be more like with this question more geared towards like gameplay changes. Shatera does mention the main protagonist being he likes it when the main protagonist is characterized as an earnest, quiet, good guy, but finds out he has some demonic side, right? And the first thing I'm thinking of, it's not a quiet good guy, but I'm thinking of Tales of Berseria with Velvet. You know, she's a quiet girl. She's just taking care of her family and stuff. And then, you know, lo and behold, we find this later in the game. She has this other side. So I guess he's kind of pointing out that this stuff's happening less often. And I would agree with that. I do like that element of surprise of seeing someone who seems kind of bland and boring and uninteresting, and then suddenly you find out they have this really dark, sinister side, or just, you know, you kind of had that same thing with Shadow Hearts, although Yuri wasn't really innocent or quiet. He was kind of perverted and in his own way, but he you know, he would turn into this like demon when when adrenaline got really high. He was kind of a supernatural creature. And so, yeah, I agree. I really, really like that stuff. But it's hard for me to think like really about story stuff because there's so much JRPG tropes that I get tired of, you know? But if I had to like name one other story thing, I think maybe just the setting being straight medieval fantasy. It seems a lot of times people are like taking like the FF approach where it's kind of medieval, but it's basically modern times, right? Where we fight with swords, but we can also have like spaceships or something, you know, or just like, you know, we have like a post-industrial cities and stuff like that. It's, you know, they usually work it in like, oh, it's magic that's powering it, or, you know, it's some ancient technology that we've uncovered that we're still learning. But
Yeah.
I like old JRPGs, like the Dragon Quest games and such that like would just have like a medieval setting, and it wouldn't, or, you know, Final Fantasy IV, like it would, like, yeah, that used some high end stuff later in the game, but it was a medieval setting, or Final Fantasy IX, a medieval setting. It did work some of the higher tech stuff in, but I just like that old medieval feel, and I'm kind of disappointed that we're not getting as many JRPGs in that straight medieval setting. I think that's probably the best I can do. So
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of ironic, I think, that you know, FF7 exploded, and also like here in the West, I mean, you know,
right,
and also
not the
Final
reactor.
Fantasy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like in terms of the genre, you know, it really put the genre on the map for most people in the West, and then also Final Fantasy X was really really popular when it came out as well. And if you think about it, like those two games are maybe the least medieval of the games
Yeah,
in the series, along with
unfortunately.
like 8 and probably 13. You know,
Yeah,
like
well,
those.
Final Fantasy X tried to do the medieval thing a little bit, but it was still like, oh, like we're religious. We don't
Mm,
like technology. But
I would
there's
argue
still the all
more.
bed.
I would argue more FF10's theme was more Southeast Asian theme.
Yeah,
If
Well, I
anything.
wasn't saying that was like the main theme, but I mean like the setting was. They tried to
low,
go
low tech, right?
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
There's
that's
something
good.
you definitely can always give FF10 credit for is that it has a very unique setting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe
And I like it
maybe
when Final Fantasy does that.
mhm. Maybe FF16, right? It'll be medieval. It'll be it'll have an airship. They're just listening to our podcast right now, right? And checking the boxes.
I'm telling you, man.
It'll have a mentor character, and also the other characters will be like of appropriate age, like at least in their early 20s, right? For combat, right?
Yeah. Dude, yeah. If you ever, and we're about to close this podcast up here, but as a last little comment here, if you ever just want to like have a brain aneurysm, look up some of your favorite Final Fantasy characters and see, but before you look them up, try to guess what age you think they are, right? From what the way the story presents them, and then
Oh, yeah.
actually look them up. And you are going to be just baffled. Like people that look like they're like probably like 35, 40 will be like 21, right? like you're not 21, you know? So it's, or like they'll be like 14. And I'm like, dude, you're clearly like 25. Like,
Right.
it's
That's
just,
the inspiration for Logan's run. No one lives past 30.
yeah, like we just, yeah, it's, that's the type of stuff I want to stop happening. And so, yeah, bring back some of these older characters. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, Sid was in his 30s, right? Vincent was technically like 60, but realistically,
Yeah.
he was about 30. So, it's not always a bad thing. I think Barrett was in his 30s too. I don't know. Anyways, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Next week, we'll try to cover some more additional Discord questions, more than just one. It all depends on the news. So if there's another Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer, or, you know, there's some other game we're looking forward to, then that takes a majority of the time. We may kind of restrict it, but probably not. And we'll try to cover a few more, but we will have to wait till then. So thanks guys for checking us out, and we will see you all next week.
All right. Take care.
See you next time.